Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to It Last. I am Stylosa. Now you might remember a video I put on the channel a couple of days ago where I said it looks as if supports are gaining way less SR than other roles. Now ladies and gentlemen, it actually would seem that no, the reason you gain less SR is because you're bad. Well, let's go into detail on this because it's not as crazy harsh as it sounds, or actually is it? Well, there was a post on the official forums, and this post has been designed to try and alleviate any sort of issues or worries people may have through playing support and gaining less SR. So there are some very interesting things in this, but I'll just read the quotes off for a second and then we'll go into detail on it, because this is very eye-opening and it's the most detail we've ever really had on the way SR is calculated. The change to handling of assists also affected how often a player might earn on fire status during a match, but the amount a player is on fire does not directly affect SR adjustments due to player performance. So what that is saying is, on fire means nothing. On fire is just nothing. Like, if you're on fire, that's great. It doesn't actually mean that you're going to get more SR in that game. Or does it? Well, it kind of does in a way, but we'll get onto that in a second. There is some correlation between the two because both systems are trying to measure how well are you playing, but there are significant differences. The determination of being on fire examines not just your own performance, but your performance relative to your teammates. So, what the hell is on fire doing? On fire is a very, very strange mechanic in this game, really. So basically, if you're performing well compared to your other teammates, so you've got the most eliminations, you've got the most damage, and potentially the most healing, etc, etc, most on objective time, objective kills, then you've got more of a chance of being on fire in that game. But that doesn't mean you'll gain more SR, but it kind of does, because if you're on fire, well then you're playing pretty good in that game, right? Nobody's ever on fire if they're having a bad game. You're having a good game. But it doesn't actually directly correlate to how much SR you will get, because, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the beautiful quote, calculation of SR adjustment after a match doesn't look at your teammates, but instead compares you to the performance of other similarly skilled players with that hero across an enormous pool of competitive matches. So we compare your Genji play to the play of other Genjis, Ana versus Anas, etc. Since we're comparing apples to apples, we shouldn't see any kind of support-specific bias in SR adjustments due to player performance. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen, we finally get it. This is the way SR is calculated. It takes whatever your, I presume your MMR is, not your actual SR rating, not your 3,800 or whatever, but your internal MMR, and it compares that to other Genjis or other people playing the same hero as you of the same MR or very similar. There must be a margin of error because obviously people are not going to have exactly the same MMR. And then it says, are you getting as many objective kills? Are you getting as many eliminations? Are you getting as much damage as those other players are? This is huge because this is confirmation of the way the system works, but also it actually puts out some glaringly obvious issues with this system. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to supports. And do I think supports generally get less SR? Well, I mean, I don't have access to Blizzard's database. I can't see all the data. I don't even know how the system works. So for me to comment on it is slightly ludicrous, but I would say possibly, because there are certain ways you can see the system simply not being able to function. So imagine this, right? This is one of the reasons I think Mercy gets more SR or loses less SR per game if she reses more people in that game, because you cannot compare res numbers to each other. So if you've got Mercy A, who is, and we'll just ignore MMR for the sake of this, we'll just talk about SR, right, because it's easier for all of us to understand. So if you had a 3,000 SR Mercy, right, and there's hundreds of thousands of other Mercies that are within 100 SR of this Mercy, so we can compare them all together. And all this Mercy does is res, but wait for massive reses, right? So throughout the game, Mercy gets silver or gold healing, right? She does a decent amount of healing. But this one Mercy is prioritizing resing, so she's hiding out of the way. She waits for everybody to die, then she drops a res, right? It might be a pointless res, but she does it anyway. Or she's just like randomly resing people as soon as she gets it, and all she's doing is trying to build her ultimate. At the end of that game, after the win, it looks at the statistics of the other players and it goes, oh, look at this. This Mercy must be awesome. She got 10 more reses in. She resed 10 more players than the average Mercy did in this bracket. So let's give her more SR. And honestly, I think that's what's going on. Because if you look at a Mercy player, right, that might actually be better than this person who's just spamming reses out. Maybe they only res a couple of times a game, but they maybe... okay, let's just go crazy and throw this situation out there. Zaryu's got a Graviton Surge ready, right? Tracer's got Pulse Bomb. That is the black hole combo. Your Tracer dies immediately at the start of the fight, just as Graviton is fired. Now, if your Mercy reses that Tracer then Pulse Bombs the Grav, that's a team wipe. That is a fantastically awesome res, right? But if that Mercy just lets Tracer stay dead, lets everybody else die, you've just wasted the Grav, then puts the res in and gets like a 4-man res or whatever, then your team gets subsequently killed, that Mercy is getting more reward, is she? Now, I don't have any evidence of this, but it would seem that that is probably the case, and that would be why we've got these crazy wild fluctuations in SR gain. And not just for supports, I'll have you know, ladies and gentlemen, because supports, I think it's easier to sort of see the lack of reward that you get, because you know as a support you've done something there which is clutch, which has kept the game going, and the game doesn't really acknowledge that. It's just looking at raw numbers. It can't tell if that res was pivotal to the game. You know the system is incapable of doing this, because if you look at the play of the game system, right, that system is sort of slightly indicative of the way the SR system kind of works, because it's based off all the statistics, off the stats, off the numbers. It cannot tell if that actual play of the game is a good play of the game. All it knows is McCree killed 4 people, so play of the game. But McCree might have killed 4 people as they were like, you've just captured the point, and they just stood there and were like, okay, well, we're giving the point up, and McCree gets 4 headshots. Not that one kill which stopped Mercy coming in to do a massive res on the final point of the map. That is play of the game, and the system cannot work that out. And by extension, I don't think the SR system can ever work that out, and that is why supports do tend to notice more often than not that they're getting less SR. But let's go away from the support example. Let's go to a DPS example. Let's go to a McCree example. So let's say, no, hell, whatever. Let's go to a Genji example. They talk about Genji. Let's talk about Genji. So you're Genji, right? And you go into the back line and you kill Ana and you kill Mercy. So that enemy team now has no supports. Then you die, right? You've got... that was your contribution to the fight. Somebody else rolls in and just starts wiping people out. Your team win the fight because you've killed the supports. And that's all you do, right? You just focus on killing the supports. Maybe a lot of the time you're just trading 1-to-1. Now, this isn't ideal Genji play, but you are taking out players who are very high value. You're not just sitting on the front line spamming damage somewhere. So how does the system work that out compared to other Genjis? In fact, let's go to Soldier 76. So Soldier, right, this is where I've got a bit of an issue with the way this system could work, because I don't think Blizzard are ever going to tell us in massive detail how the SR calculation system works, because I think this is one of the most complex things in Overwatch, and I think these types of matchmaking systems and reward systems and player rating systems and all of that are sort of like not industry secrets, but a lot of money is spent on them, so they're not really just going to go, oh yeah, this is how it works, because another company might start copying it. So let's go to Soldier 76 and look at this example. So imagine if you're Soldier and all you do all game is spam barriers. So you've got massive damage, right? You do loads more damage. You've got like an average number of eliminations, maybe an average number of deaths, but you're doing an incredible amount of damage. What does the system think there? What does it do? Does it go, okay, so this 3000 rated soldier is doing on average 10,000 more damage than a soldier at this level. Holy hell, let's give him extra 20 SR per win. Is that what it does? Can it differentiate between effective damage, or is it just a figure and it's like, wow, he's doing so much damage, he must be constantly firing, when in reality maybe that soldier is just firing into an Orisa barrier, a Winston bubble, and a Reinhardt barrier, and he's got massive stats because of that? Is it more complex than that? Does it look at eliminations to damage? Does it say, wow, this person's got high eliminations, but he's got very high damage as well, so he must be killing the enemy and not just spamming barriers? Like, these are where there's loads and loads of issues with this system. Like, you just simply don't know. And we can look at certain things. We can look at some things. Like I said, you look at the play of the game system and the way that works, and you can kind of derive things from that. But all the statistics we've got in this game are quite confusing. Even if Blizzard want to go away from not giving us a straight up score screen, which honestly I would like to see, especially in competitive. I think it would be great if we had like an actual kill to death thing. We could see the enemy teams kill to death and all of that stuff and how much damage they've done and whatever, because you'd be able to see who is not performing as well, and maybe you need to swap comps. I know the whole toxicity issue with it and whatever, but the fact is, there are a lot of stats in this game. You've got the on fire meter, which apparently doesn't really mean anything, but actually it kind of does, because if you're on fire, then you must be performing well, so you would expect to get more SR. But why are you on fire? Like, how does your class or your hero gain SR? On fire status? Does it even matter? Like, then suddenly at the end of the game you get a load of SR because you've done something which is better than other heroes. And this is the last thing I want to talk about in this video. Can this be abused? Like, can you play a very unpopular hero and actually rank up quicker? Now, why could you do this? Well, if you think about it this way, the more popular a hero is, the more people playing that hero, the harder it's going to be to get to the top of that hero's ranking or perform extremely well, so you're gaining a lot of SR. So I've got two examples here, ladies and gentlemen. What about Hanzo? What about Sombra? You could also maybe put Symmetra into this, possibly Torbjorn, right? Winston is apparently one of the least played heroes, which I find slightly insane. So maybe we could put Winston into this. But let's just look at Sombra and Hanzo, for example. You could say these heroes at the... Well, actually, no. You know what? I bet Hanzo's played quite a lot throughout the game. But it's relative to your MMR. So if you're a higher ranked player and you're playing a hero which is considered off meta, you're probably going to get more SR per win. This could be the reason why you see a lot of... Well, not a lot of, but you see people who play Sombra or play Hanzo seem to rapidly rank up, or maybe people who play Pharah extensively or heroes like that, whereas what people playing Genji or Tracer might find it a little bit more difficult because there's more people actually playing those heroes. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the problem I've got with the SR system, because it cannot gauge what you've done in a game, because it never will be able to. Instead, all it can do is look at your statistics, and if you're constantly getting a certain number of statistics and it's higher than the average of whatever your MMR is or whatever your SR is, then it gives you more SR as a result to put you against better players, so you should be able to get a better game, and your stats should start to normalize. And when they do, that's probably when you've reached your almost skill cap in a way. It's very complex, this issue is, but as of right now, it looks as if you don't perform as well as other heroes in your same level, kind of, well, not level range, but in your same skill range, then you won't gain as much SR. How you achieve that is still up for debate, and it's still, I think, very dodgy for support players, because with DPS it's a little bit easier to work these things out. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very detailed video. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Do you have any evidence? I would be very interested in seeing evidence of low SR gains, even when you've performed really well. If you've got any of that, do send it to me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming. I will see it easier than the comments on this video. But also, do leave comments below. I will check the comments, but videos tend to get thousands of comments. It's pretty hard to check all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been StyleOsa, and the SR sort of debate continues, but at least we've got a little bit of light which has been shed on the situation. Alright guys, I've been StyleOsa, this is UnitLost. You can follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming, and I'm off to play more Overwatch. I'll catch you next time. Toodaloo.